Hello, this is Raziel Cohen with ndftraining.com, and today we're going to be speaking about a small mistake that completely broke my Glock. So as you guys know, we are right now in a series where I'm modifying and customizing my Glock 48 for concealed carry use, and we're kind of going through the process of choosing different components and parts to be able to make it work for my needs best. So today was supposed to be the video where I'd be speaking about the trigger that I got for this gun. What I did earlier today was I went to the range to go zero the red dot that we spoke about in the previous video. We had the sights on it. I was going to speak about those as well. But what happened at the range was I was firing the gun, and right after I got zeroed, I was noticing I was having issues with extraction. So the casing wasn't being extracted from the gun. So I took a few photos of this, and I'm going to put them up on the screen now. And you can tell there's something very wrong with the way that this looks. What's happening right now is that the extractor is too far out of the gun. There's something not holding it in place properly, which means that the gun is not going to perform correctly. And that's obviously a very big problem, because any type of ammunition you use, it's not going to be ammunition specific. Any type of ammo that you put in the gun is not going to be able to extract, and you're going to have problems. Now, this is extremely rare for Glocks. Glocks are known obviously from straight out of the box to perform very well. So the question is, what in the world caused this that now I'm starting to have issues with feeding? So after looking at the gun and trying to break it down, I could not figure out what the problem was. And I really had no idea what I was going to be doing. So then I brought the Optic home, and what I did is I disassembled the slide. I checked the spring that's connected to the extractor, and that's kind of what keeps pressure on the extractor. And when I removed it, I realized I only removed half of it, which means that the spring and bar that's inside of the actual slide snapped. So that's another huge red flag, because again, for Glocks, this is extremely rare. Glocks never, at least not in my experience, have ever had that happen, unless there's usually user error or something that went wrong on my end. So I was still trying to figure out what in the world I was able to do to be able to figure out what the problem was. So I reached out to a friend of mine. His YouTube channel was actually recently deleted, and he's now rebuilding his channel, so credit to him. I'm gonna put his information on the screen right now that you can check it out. I recommend you subscribe to his channel. He also has a podcast that you guys can listen to as well. I reached out to him, and I'm like, bro, I don't know what I did. I don't know what's going on. I'm not sure why this is a problem. Do you have any input on what went wrong? Instead of me going to a gunsmith first and trying to figure out how much that's going to cost me and all the details associated with it, I was hoping that he might know the answer. And within one text message, he immediately knew what the problem was. He said that the optic that I'm using and the plate that I'm using, that I mounted the red dot onto the slide, I was using the incorrect screws, and the screw was protruding into the hole of where that bar moves. And since that screw is breaking down, every time the gun fires and recoils, there's that pressure of that screw pretty much snapping that bar, and that's been the issue of the malfunction. So let's take a closer look to see what exactly happened, and I'll kind of show you what I was speaking about up to this point so you guys get a better idea. We'll also speak about if you get the Halcyon 407K and you also want to use the CNH Precision plates, which is a very, very good combination to use together. I'm going to show you which screws to use and make sure that you don't end up damaging your firearm as well. So let's talk about this small mistake that made everything kind of break apart. So what we had in the previous videos, we spoke about using this plate on the Glock 48 slide. This is from CNH Precision, and it gives a better mounting plate for the Halcyon 407K, and it gives you a more consistent and more reliable mounting platform. Now that's really is the best way to go when it comes to the MOS platform. If you're going to have an MOS gun, getting a plate from CNH Precision is really going to make a difference in regards to reliability of the firearm. So now what happens is that if you have the MOS plate, you're going to have this come automatically with it. This is the plate that covers it. Then until the point you decide on which optic that you want, this is going to come like that, and you can just leave it screwed in, and then once you decide on an optic, you remove it, and then you're going to mount the optic of your choosing. Now, if you look over here, when I bring this up, you can see the size of the screws there are fairly small. They're just meant to be able to hold it in place just till the point of you making a decision on which optic you want to use. Now, when you get a Halcyon optic, they're going to send you this one. So I'm going to take this, and we're just using this as a reference. You get an idea of size difference. You can see a much larger amount of protruding. I'm actually going to put them side by side. So the one on the right is what it came with, the MOS comes with, and the one on the left is the Halcyon Sense screw. So you can see there's a much larger screw when it comes to the Halcyon option. Now, just because it's larger definitely doesn't mean it's better when it comes to this case, because as we spoke about, inside this area right over here, this is the spring area where it goes all the way down inside over there, and right over here is where the extractor usually sits. Now, in through this hole is going to be where this bar is. Now let's take out the bar so you guys can see what I'm speaking about right over here. Here's a spring. This spring goes That's where it's going to be protruding. It goes into that hole. Now, as you can see, this is only half of it. This is the rest of it. This whole thing snapped, and that's what caused the issue of being able to feed. So this is what we're looking at right now, and this was the problem. So usually it's going to go something like that, right? And this is going to be, let's say, connected. But again, the problem is going to be that right now, since this is potentially already damaged, I already got a replacement. Although this probably might work fine, I want to make sure that if this is going to be a carry gun, I know that it works as best as possible. So usually it's going to fit in just like that. It slides into this area right over here, just like that. And you can see how it would come out all the way, but usually there's going to be this piece. So we'll take out all the parts over here. This is going to be the extractor, and the extractor is going to be what's used to obviously extract the rounds. So that piece was being touched by the screw. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the camera for a second. I'm going to mount this screw onto the slide so you get an idea of what it looks like. So you can see how even a small amount of the screw protruding into that hole is going to make a difference with reliability and making it snap. So right now I put the Optic onto the slide and I used the Hollison screw that came with the kit. So that's this screw right over here was the larger one. Now when I align this so you can look into the light, I'm going to put my flashlight inside there. Now you can see on the right side hole, there's that little bit of protruding of that screw right on top. So you look at that hole on the right, and on the top there you see a little bit of a screw protruding. That hole and that screw protruding is what was rubbing against the actual spring and causing it to not be able to cycle and not being able to extract. And then that's what ultimately caused the extractor from protruding off to the side and causing it issues with functioning. Now I'm going to switch it out for the screws that came from C&H Precision so you can see what that looks like. So now we have the screw from C&H Precision. It's going to be mounting the Optic the same way. I'm going to put the flashlight right over there. And if you look inside, you don't see any of that protruding. You see the hole of where it's potentially able to come out of, but you don't see any of that screw protruding, and that's the way it's supposed to fit. So my issue is that during the process of being able to mount, I must have confused or misplaced one of these screws, and I ended up using the Hollison screws instead of the screws that came from C&H Precision, which would have been the correct screws to be able to use to mount. And because of that, I had issues with ammunition and being able to feed. So this is kind of just like not a warning video, but just kind of a be aware video that if you have a Glock 48 and you want to be able to mount this properly and you have the C&H Precision plates, make sure that you're not using the plates that come with the MOS system. You're not using the plates that come, the screws that come from the MOS system or the screws that come from Hollison. You need to make sure that you're using the correct screw and setup that is designed for what the pieces that you're using are. So the C&H Precision plates, make sure to use the screws that they provide from C&H Precision and make sure that everything's mounted correctly. You can also always double check and put a flashlight down to make sure that it's not being able to protrude, and that should be able to resolve the problem if you made a silly mistake like I did. This is Raziel Cohen with ndftraining.com. Thank you for watching.